Is tomorrow Saturday?
Yes.
No, that's not. Oh, right,
It is,
right,
yep.
because it just crossed midnight. There are no interactions booked for that day.
Ooh.
Although my wife is babysitting that afternoon. I think I told you we have a 3-year-old housemate.
They're 3. They can,
3's a fun age.
Yeah.
And she's kind of, unfortunately, gotten over Peppa Pig is now into Pokemon. Yeah.
My daughter's into, this My Little Pony cartoon.
Which means you're into that now.
Yes. One of our friends was talking about the difference between having a 2-year-old and 3-year-old, and they say, you know, the terrible twos, terrible twos.
Oh, no.
2 is so easy. 3?
So easy.
Yeah.
Have you heard the phrase three-nature?
I was just going to say that,
Yeah.
and it was so perfect.
Yeah.
That was my dose of what she'll be like as a teenager. She's definitely got an independent streak in her. I don't know where she got that one from. I want to do it. Well, you're 2 feet too short to reach that, so you might need a little help, honey.
Dear friends of ours, they had a daughter our age, but then ended up having 2 younger children later. And they moved out of state, but we continued to visit them. And we visited once, and we took, one of the girls was in like 2nd grade, and the other was maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And we took them each a little, like, build-a-doll kit. Like something to do. And so, first or second day of the visit, we're driving around with the mother, running errands, and have the younger one with us. The older one's in school. And on the way back to the house, the younger one says, when we get back to the house, can we make the dolls? And the mom said, well, we're going to wait till your sister gets home from school. And the youngest child said, but I want her to feel left out. Oof.
Oh man. She cuts right to the heart of it on that one. There's no sugarcoating those motives.
Just like,
I want to watch her cry.
You know, that's sort of our primal instinct, because animals do that. The one loon chick will try to kill the other.
huh.
Eagles push one another out of try to fratricide, push out of the nest.
Right.
Yeah, they want to be the only child. Of course, then they get more food and so forth.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that instinct is in a child.
Too much.
Yeah. Anyone interested in another Samoan clipper factoid?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Do you remember who Cecil Sellers is on the crew?
Brian does.
I couldn't hear you over the sound of my coughing when I was off radio.
Yes, okay. I said, do you remember who Cecil Sellers is on the crew?
Navigator.
First officer.
Told you.
First officer.
Ed knows all of it.
Yeah, Captain Sellers was noted for having been Marshal Chiang Kai-shek's pilot in 1936.
Wow.
When he flew Madame Chiang Kai-shek with ransom money.
Whoa.
You're going to have to give some of us probably a little bit more background story on that one.
Oh, really? Oh. Huh. Yeah. You want to give a quick overview of the kidnapping and the ransom?
No,
Well,
do you?
Ed pretty sure had the dates and times memorized, if I remember correctly.
That's because I was in high school then.
Well,
wait,
somebody
no.
tell it.
No, but I
That's
know she moved to Wolfboro, New Hampshire.
The other watch is the one that gives me grief for being old, not this one. Disregard.
That's why we're your favorite watch.
Peyton, do you know why there was ransom money with
No,
Chiang Kai-shek?
Chiang Kai-shek. The
Captain
'cause
Sellers
he
was
fled
noted
to-
for having been Marshal Chiang Kai-shek's pilot in 1936 when he flew Madam Chiang Kai-shek with the ransom money.
I can look into it.
For the question that came in about when we'll be diving with Hercules, the answer is we don't know. We have until about Saturday, about 3 or so a.m. to finish up what we're doing, but it all depends on what we find and when we find it and if we find it. And then next week we'll be continuing on back to the Marine Sanctuary of American Samoa, and we'll be doing some Hercules dives then. Ed, are you 12 to 4 next
Just
expedition?
working on the watch schedule now.
Join us.
We have to make some adjustments, so.
Hmm.
I'm trying to go through now and mark where there's interns, because what we try to do is do intern load balancing, so that no Herc pilot gets overloaded with interns, because that becomes a lot to manage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're just too needy.
No, it's not that at all.
So, Dr. Megan, are you pumped to check out those 2 targets?
Pumped.
Pumped.
That would be how you describe my general state of being.
Yeah, so the only...
Is somebody going to tell us the Chiang Kai-shek story or what? Because I'm at the edge of my seat.
Yeah, I thought Peyton was looking it up.
I got
thought I
distracted
had
by
it
other
here, but
history.
I got sucked into the rabbit hole of a book called The Man Who Lost China.
You didn't look very hard.
Although I should get points at least for spelling Chiang Kai-shek correctly.
You do. You get points.
Ooh,
Whoa.
Oh.
We're back.
My bad.
I don't know what that was, but I'm glad it passed. How's there not
Squall.
a Wikipedia page on this? Oh. Now I'm going to get sucked into the Google Doodle for the Apollo.
You click on it, it tries to play a video.
Or not.
Oh man, you remembered how to spell that?
Yep. Wasn't Chiang Kai-shek in power when Doolittle's raiders bailed out over China?
That sounds like a Lonnie question.
I didn't even understand half the words
Nah.
you said in that order.
All of the words.
So, is Lonnie with me on this? Because I might need some backup.
I'm here, but
Okay.
I'm
So
not up on
early
this
in
history.
World War II, mainly as a morale booster, the U.S. military found a way to put long-range bombers on aircraft carriers as a super-secret mission led by James Doolittle. And they were able to bomb mainland Japan in a largely military ineffective. I mean, it had no tactical benefit to that. But
Wanted to freak them out.
But a lot of the aircraft weren't able to return or get to where they were supposed to go, and the aviation crews had to bail out over China.
Didn't they do that at the end of the Pearl Harbor movie?
I haven't seen that.
B-25s generally weren't considered long range.
No, yeah, they were surprisingly lucky and able to get close enough.
Absolutely,
to
yeah.
launch those, though.
Yep. But everybody who volunteered for the mission knew that it was probably a one-way ticket.
Yeah.
I think actually, though, that a couple managed to land in China. I think maybe 2 or 3 B-25s managed to actually land in China, but I might be wrong on that.
Peyton, are you still on the case?
I found this article about, so Chiang Kai-shek's wife, Mei-ling Soong, aka Madam Chiang Kai-shek, and I'm not sure if this is what you guys were referring to, but basically she was trying to seduce or I guess also could be argued successfully seduced someone who's running for potential presidency. It's
But
a
just
super wild story.
Just trying to like comb out of there which of these women were his wives and which were concubines.
And what the ransom money was for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what that is.
These are cool looking rocks on the sonar.
Agreed.
I like them.
They're our favorites.
This area is our favorite. After the abysmal no rockage of some other of the lines.
On the lineage. Lineage.
Lineage.
Also known as lineage.
A very technical term that only extremely technical people use.
And the Psi 1 and Psi 2 seats.
I'm not seeing anything about ransom money in relation with her.
Well, this is a mystery we're going to have to investigate for sure.
Nautilus Live viewers, find the ransom story. Write us in.
I'm gonna go head the ship up to the target. I think Argus will still end up swinging a bit towards the end of this line.
Okay.
That sound all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Bridge nav. Can we head to the selected target? this one up here, and we'll hold position when we get there. Thank you.
I give up on trying to find it.
Yeah, I'm dead-ended.
Perhaps our viewers can help us out.
Yeah.
We don't have the resources in here.
Yeah, sorry.
Wasn't that unit called, going back to the Doolittle's Raiders?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what they were called. They dropped bombs over Tokyo,
Yeah.
mainly just to show the Japanese that we could. It was a
Yeah, and I think they deliberately
Morale.
chose not to use incendiary bombs.
I don't know about that.
A week ago, one of the last Doolittle Raiders passed away.
Yeah,
It's 103.
Wow. I bet you he didn't have an Instagram account.
103. You see a lot of things in 103 years.
What would that be? 2066? Yeah. For me.
Well, it would look a lot different in 2066.
I'm sure the world looked different to him. I think they captured that well in the book and the film Shawshank Redemption.
Ah,
When the
That's
guy
like one
gets-
of my favorite movies.
So
So
the guy
good.
gets out and says the world got itself in one hell of a hurry. Brooks.
yep. It's an interesting thing on the right.
these are all really cool rocks.
Yeah.
Very wavy.
There's those little things like, 38 things you didn't know about Shawshank Redemption. And there's all sorts of foreshadowing statements in there. At one point, Andy, I guess, is talking to Red, which is a hilarious joke in and of itself. Red. And trying to think about how to get out of the prison. And Red says something like, that's just a different term for it though, but crappy pipe dream. And obviously a bit of foreshadowing there. I thought an alternate ending where he comes out of the pipe and he's in the courtyard of the prison would have been pretty funny too.
We could mark this as the end of the 11 gap line.
Really? Great.
Roger.
And then we're heading towards the target that we have marked in the 30-31-52 cluster. We'll go into just the closest one that we have, and then we'll start to try to hone in on it.
Do we want to stay in this close contact with bottom?
Yes.
Okay. Close-ish.
Yeah, no reason not to.
And are we still side scanning?
Roger. Up here. This one right there. Yeah. Yeah. You'll just have to guess your vector for the heading. Doing a good job.
I want to say, oh, that's not a, it's definitely a jelly.
Is that a nettle?
Not a sea nettle, because then you would see the frilly oral arms. Let me take a look.
Great name for a band.
Frilly oral arms or sea nettle.
Both.
Bummer. Yeah.
Oh, where's my notebook? There we go. Alright, so jellyfish without oral arms. Reddish bell.
Are those blood jellies? Is that what those
Probably
are called?
Corona Medusa. Yeah, let me take a look.
We're on a sad state of the video engineers making species ID.
This is a...
You're a grizzled
It
veteran.
is just giving me the food and not... Hold on. Deep sea.
Giving you a recipe.
Blood jellies look like they are combs. Like, sorry, comb jellies.
Okay.
Because I initially saw it and thought it was like a big red, but those have like really fleshy tentacles. I'm gonna see if I can photo ID using Google. Because the bell was smooth, it had several thin tentacles on either side. It's probably going to be harder than I thought.
We believe in you.
Hey, 2 hours in. This exact scenario, Peyton, is why a lot of recreational scuba divers get into underwater photography, because it's so hard to see an organism underwater, and then an hour and a half later, or when you get home later that day, trying to remember the exact details of species ID. You know, was it a strong midline? Was there, you know, so if you take an image, it's easier to do species ID.
Gotcha.
I do not do that. I take more than enough pictures for work, so.
Mm-hmm.
I just keep thinking of your statement that the last Doolittle Raider died at 103.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ed Music was so meticulous that it was his own expressed wish not only to be Pan Am's chief pilot, but to be his oldest pilot.
Ah.
So.
Well, that's the old
Kinda
bold
known for
line,
that.
right?
Right, the old. Only made it to 44.
Man, that still accomplished a lot in those 44 years.
Yes, he did. But they were so meticulous that they actually established a reputation of invulnerability. So this whole crash was a huge
Shattered
shock.
that. Yeah. So, Lonnie, I'm sure you have great painters working on your new house. As part of our restoration, unfortunately, I was at sea, and our painters used the wrong colors in the entire interior.
Wrong,
like completely
by
wrong. Like
so
the
did-
ceiling color was on the walls,
Oh,
and the upstairs
Ooh.
color was on the living. Yeah.
did they fix
And
it?
so, yeah, they did. It was interesting. I hate to think this was related to gender, but you know, my wife and I had done a walkthrough with them, and then at the end of that, my wife sent them an email, very specific, this color with this name on these surfaces. And then when they showed up to start painting, she was on her way to work. She did a walkthrough again, and then when she came back, wrong colors. And it got a little bit of resistance. Like, no, that's what you told me. I'm not sure I would have gotten that. But she had that email, and they made it
Yeah.
right. No added cost. But
That's good.
yeah,
But added time and
yeah, of course.
frustration
And you know what though? We I don't know how you're way more experienced at this than I am. This is the first time this was not a planned thing. We had a leak in our house that took out our first floor. But we never scheduled something back to back. So if one contractor was like, I'm going to be done on Tuesday, and you couldn't do anything with the next contractor till that guy was done, I would really wait till that guy was done to schedule the other thing, or at least schedule it like another week later. Because if you eat into those buffers and you tell somebody, I can't use you tomorrow even though I said I needed you, then you go to the back of the queue,
Yeah.
and then they don't have anything to fill their day. So
well, that's really what the general contractor does. He just sequences everything in the right order and then keeps on top of it.
And so we used a general for most of our stuff, but we used our own subs for a couple other things. We have a neighbor who's a plumber who has been a godsend. The day of the leak, he was at our house within an hour and resolved the leak and got our water restored for the interim and charged, I don't know, $150 for that.
Good friend.
Yep. So, you know, when it comes to doing the rough plumbing and the finish, he's got our business. And we hired a general who was fine with us using our own subs in that regard.
If you get out of sequence, it's a big mess. So the
Yo,
painters
man.
come in, and then
Yep.
the owner comes in and says, oh, wait a minute. I've got a piece of furniture that goes where the switch is.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
exactly.
you have to move the switch. Then the plasters have to come back. Then the painters have to come back again.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
No, we were very lucky in that regard. I think part of it too is trying to welcome these people into our house as craftsmen who are great at what they do and are appreciated. I think you get, A, it's how you should treat a human, but B, you get better work out of them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I did get an ID, I think, on the jellyfish we saw. It's Paralia rufescens.
Ooh.
Seems actually pretty common in deep waters, but according to Mbari,
The Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute.
Yep. I don't know if there's a lot of information about it, but it has been spotted at a number of deep water sites.
It seems fairly common to me too. We see those everywhere.
Yeah. It also, one of the pages I'm looking at also suggests that the shrimp-like animals that we've been seeing might be mysids, which are crustaceans that are similar to shrimp, but in a different classification.
You know, you can hear shrimp when you're scuba diving.
What?
You can hear them. The little clicking.
Like the clicking from
yeah.
the...
Oh.
You probably hear them when you're snorkeling.
So they're the ones doing the clicking?
Yeah.
Fish make a lot of those noises too, don't they?
Some do. Ones I hate are like the parrotfish when you hear them eating the coral. That's a horrible noise.
There was a big meme after the PSAT about like toadfish calls because that was like a topic of an article in it.
Huh. What's your least favorite sea animal?
Me?
Yeah.
Not necessarily sea animal, but ostracods, sea shrimp. It's like a little. They're also known as like clam shrimp, but they have like clam shrimp, but they have two shells, and they like have little legs that extend out of it.
Huh.
And they're kind of pests in my shrimp tank at home, so I just am not a fan of them. Like, they have a very cool ecological position, and they're not harming anything, but there's just a lot of them.
Yeah.
You have a saltwater or freshwater?
Freshwater.
I am not a fan of crown of thorns.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty bad.
The starfish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were
Sea
just talking
stars.
about them on the last cruise and how they were invasive on the north coast of American Samoa, and they were successfully eradicated in that area.
How did they get rid of them?
They were injected, divers
right.
injected them with ox blood.
Whoa. Like ox blood, the plant?
Or ox bile, something.
Huh. I can look into it.
Yeah.
I've flipped them over and put rocks on them before. Have to be careful.
What harm do they do?
They eat coral.
They eat the reef.
Eat the reef.
And they're
They'll
also
destroy everything.
venomous?
Yes.
They're huge.
Yeah.
So what eats them in their like native?
I don't know if there is a predator for crown of
There's
thorns.
No.
fish. There's
Probably lionfish.
I forget what type it was.
I don't think so.
They're doing a study of whether marine sanctuaries really do help the corals, and it was proven.
Crown of thorns?
No.
Oh.
Whether the marine sanctuaries help the coral reefs in the area by protecting it, and it was
By managing it? Yeah.
Yeah, by protecting the fish that live in the area, they were taking care of the predators like the urchins and the crown of thorn starfish that were eating the corals.
Maybe too, they eat like the eggs or whatever, if there are
Right,
eggs in the
right.
before they even get to be crown of starfish.
You're right,
Thorn
Rennie.
starfish.
It is ox bile.
Yeah, ox bile. That was Tim Clark on the last cruise, who was, I forget his role, but he works for the remote Pacific Remote Islands National Marine Monument, something. like that. But anyway, he was on when we sailed from Honolulu to Kingman, Palmyra, Jarvis, and then down to American Samoa.
Oh,
Give us a lot of
the
little
giant
factoids.
The giant Triton sea snail loves eating the crown of thorns starfish. Sorry to interrupt you, but
Nope.
yeah, there
That
are
was-
predators.
I was
Worth it.
done.
A series of pufferfish and 2 triggerfish also feed on them.
Peyton, you familiar with the Pycnopodia sea stars that we have in the Northwest? The 24-leg, ginormous sea stars?
Oh, like sunflower stars?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you are, well, you don't die, but if you turn those over, you realize those are like the Roomba of the sea.
Mm-hmm.
They pick everything up. They're about, I don't know, how big is that, Dan? 1.5 feet across? 2 feet?
They're very
big.
pretty.
They're big.
A 400 millimeter diameter crown of thorn starfish female produces 47 to 53 million eggs.
There's been a pretty remarkable episode that started in the Pacific Northwest off of British Columbia and Washington, where all of the sea stars were dissolving. Just dissolving.
Oh, yeah, sea star wasting
And,
disease.
Yeah, syndrome, I thought. Oh, it's disease, you're right. And the Seattle or Vancouver Aquarium termed it sea star wasting disease. And it spread all the way down to Los Angeles, and we lost all of our sea stars. They would dissolve, just flat out dissolve. And they've done a ton of research. They've identified a causal factor, and it seems as though the episode has passed.
Does it say what the causal factor was?
A virus?
I think it was a virus, yeah.
Yeah, it's...
But related
go for it.
also to water temperature.
Yeah, because normally that virus is present in small amounts
Yeah.
all the time, but
Yes.
apparently the warming in temperature also caused the sea stars to become more susceptible to it.
Yes.
And so it caused a much larger outbreak. And
But then we had juvenile sea stars that were not getting infected.
yeah,
And we had a good winter, and that seemed to have helped.
yeah.
But it was several years long, and it actually was first reported by citizen scientists, divers, who were just like, hey, something's going on with the sea stars down here, guys. Please help.
And it was tough too, because like with the virus infecting the sea stars, it often would leave the sea stars weakened and then susceptible to other infections. So either fungi, bacteria, or other viruses. And so then like it was difficult for scientists to like pinpoint exactly what the causal factor was.
But it was like a zombie movie of sea stars.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Did you guys figure out what was changing the lighting on Argus Utility? Just a loose cable, huh? That's a long dive. I don't know.
To anyone who's watching, we like questions
We do.
to help us keep awake. So ask us anything.
What's the
Because
fastest
we're on
land
the-
mammal?
Ask us anything relevant to our mission.
Because we're on the midnight to 4 a.m. watch,
That's right.
The best watch.
The
Best watch.
the first watch.
Hopefully also the watch that ends it.
Starts it.
Actually, yeah.
Oh, true. Advances it.
What do you think? All right, there's our
We found
aircraft.
it.
We're
Bye.
coming up.
I mean,
Well, let's go look at some biology for Peyton.
no, ends the Argus dive.
Uh,
Starts the Herc one.
yeah. There's some debate over that too, but I
Oh,
think
okay.
if we found something now, we would put her down.
Nice. Is that a fish?
I can't zoom that much. What's that? No. Holothorian is my guess, but
Okay.
so judging by my timer, is that right? Hold on.
That'd be almost 100 hours, huh?
48, 96. We're at 97 hours into this dive.
Woo.
So by the time we finish, we'll be at 100. We have 3 more hours left on this watch. So 25 consecutive watches.
Can we change Argus heading to around 0? North? Yeah. Thank you.
So thanks for the question coming in about how potential targets have been classified and prioritized for visual investigation. And the science team is a very specific method they've used on a scale of 1 to 10 of which one looks more like a rock.
Is it a rock?
Can we pull up the targets? 30, 31, 52, 51, 53. Take a look at them. See what we're after.
Do you want to start with 51 and 52?
The first one's a 30 that we're going to
Okay. I mean, you can also do them in order. I just had that flipped open too.
Okay.
This is 30.
30 was described as 3 rounded. Okay.
I don't think it's 3.
3 rounded
I
objects.
think that's an artifact of speed.
Yeah.
But the stuff above it kind of looks interesting,
Mhm.
the stretching. And
And then 31 was noted as blocky with 4 rectangular shapes.
Those were these
Yeah.
interesting things over here.
Mm-hmm.
Then to 51. 51 was described as 3 objects with striations and shadows.
If these are oriented top to bottom. Yeah.
And then 52 was described as multiple layered shadows and highlights.
We're about to find out.
Yeah. I'm excited to just write in the event target log in all caps, the Samoan Clipper.
So a question came in about how confident are we that our search area will have the remains of the Samoan Clipper, and I'll let Dr. Megan answer that one.
Well, I mean,
We're hopeful.
obviously we were 100% confident before we came out here, because we had planned the mission based on a lot of very, very good information that Lonnie had found during research. So those locations, sorry, that location data is still the best that we have. And
No.
I still am confident in our search box.
Is there a chance that, and forgive me if I don't have the names right, but the pilot who came out and spotted everything was flying solo, so he's not taking fixes, he's orbiting, he gets a reference point on land, so he knows about where he is, and then he goes back, lands his aircraft, it's recovered onto his vessel or not, and then inside his office he takes out a chart and marks the point of where he was, and that's where he gets the fix from.
Well, first of all, we actually don't know for absolute certain where that lat long comes from. So it could be from the plane, it could be from the USS Avocet, it could be where they sighted the oil slick, it could be where they picked up debris.
Right.
There is no notation for where that lat long comes from. So if the plane went out and noted something later or whatever, still, the thing is that the ship went out to that area, they found the oil slick, they found the debris, they found what they needed to find to positively identify the wreck. So no matter if the plane was off a little bit, the ship still found the things. So the information that we're going off of is still our best case, which is general vicinity.
So if the Avocet would have recorded its location, that would have probably...
If the Avocet would have recorded its location, that would have been extremely helpful.
But I'm sure at the time, you know, they weren't marking a wreck site. They were just trying to
Find
see
survivors.
if there was anything to recover. Yeah, they were on a rescue or a recovery mission.
We still have general coordinates from other ships. I'm not trying to be like USS Avocet was really crappy here, but we still do have coordinates from other ships who were on sort of rescue missions as to where they were and what sort of headings they were, and take multiple lat longs. So it was a common thing to do. It wasn't like it was, it is unusual that they did not. That's what I'm trying to say.
Where did those coordinates, where did those first appear? Was that on like a telegram or accident
The Bureau of Air
report?
Commerce report.
Yeah, the accident report.
And Lieutenant Williamson didn't, you know, he went out twice. He went out again to help the Avocet if they didn't locate the site, and he confirmed that it was the same place. So he had 2 opportunities to record the location. But Megan is right. Dr. Megan is right. We don't know the actual source of the latitude, longitude.
You know, it's okay to call me just Megan.
It's okay. I respect the amount of work it took you to get your doctorate.
I do not require everybody to call me Dr. Megan.
No.
I kind of thought that that's what happened. You
No.
just had a meeting
Yeah.
and I wasn't there. And
Our
you said,
pre-meeting.
Listen,
Listen, people.
it's Dr. Megan. And that's it.
Do not even call me Megan.
It's Dr. Megan to all of you.
See, I knew
I
you
was
before
following
the
the leader.
doctor part.
I know,
so it's
see,
like,
that's
it's like
what-
putting a new name on someone.
No. Megan is just fine, everyone. Although I do appreciate it, but...
Was it you that was saying you're headed back to Seattle and then heading right back out again?
Yeah, almost right back out again. I have to go put on my museum hat and go to the Carolinas Aviation Museum.
Nice.
Yeah,
Charlotte.
in Charlotte.
That's where they have the Miracle on the Hudson plane.
That's exactly where they have it.
One of the members of my church at the time when I lived there was on that plane.
Oh, wow, that's cool. Yeah, they do a lot of sort of events with passengers still, and they just had the 10-year anniversary with Sully and that kind of thing. So one of the engines, what's interesting, one of the interesting things, excuse me, about Miracle on the Hudson is that the entire aircraft was actually submerged. When the wreck occurred, when the ditching occurred, they lost one of the engines, and that engine sank to the bottom of the Hudson and was sitting there while they did the whole rescue. And then when they towed the aircraft, one of the engines was still on it. But then they actually had to go and have divers use a side scan sonar to find this engine, and then they used divers from the National Park Service to go and identify it, hook it up, and bring it up. And one of those was a National Park Service archaeologist. So it was like aviation archaeology in
real
modern
world
times.
application.
Yeah, modern real world application, which was pretty cool.
Did they end up putting that engine back onto the plane, or was it just?
Well, both engines are off the plane and sitting next to it, so in their sort of locations, but the engines were taken off to go through the NTSB investigation.
They hit a flock of Canadian geese.
They did, yes. Yeah, so they had to
hefty birds.
do the investigation on both engines to try and to figure out exactly what happened.
The only AWACS aircraft that's ever been lost was taken down by a flock of birds as well.
Sorry, what's an AWACS aircraft?
Advanced warning. It's the aircraft with the large black and white dome on the top, or saucer. It's a military aircraft that does air traffic control from the sky.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's got that big dish right on top of it.
What type of aircraft is that? That's 747. I don't know.
The SR-71?
No. This is like a commercial jetliner that's been modified to do aircraft management and air traffic control. And it took off from Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska and hit a flock of birds.
Boeing 707.
It's a 707?
That's what it says.
Yeah. Man, when those things land, that thing is so heavy on the back that they come in at like 80 or 90% thrust. Super loud. Actually, the base commander was relieved of duty because he did not have an effective bird mitigation program, I believe. But
that
yeah, birds.
Is very important, yeah, at all airports.
Yeah.
In fact, that's one of the things that I'm going over for, is to help them secure their outdoor collection.
There's all
for
sorts
critters.
of tricks for that now.
Yeah.
Especially for birds. They use like falcon cries over speakers and.
Well, it depends on the species of birds you have. That's more common in the area. So if you have like a marshy area, or if you have a lot of birds that settle in the open fields, you have to make sure it's mowed pretty closely so they don't come and settle.
Mimic a predator.
We're basically just closing up aircraft spaces.
Yeah, and then you've got, mice love to get in there and chew on wires.
But back to our wreck site, Pan Am asked the U.S. Coast Guard to send out the cutter Tanny from Honolulu, but the Coast Guard refused. They said they didn't believe there was any useful purpose in the 4,000-mile journey. Shows there was nothing nearby.
It was fair enough, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It just showed Pan Am was desperate to try to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
So the question that came in about the sonar returns, why they appeared to kind of run north-south in that waterfall image, has to do with the rate of speed we're going. So those objects aren't really stretched out like that in real life. They look that way because of the speed we're traveling. since we're traveling at such a slow rate of speed, because of a variety of factors, we're getting multiple sonar returns on the same object. So it's making that object appear to stretch out.
And that'll get much worse when we actually stop and bring Argus directly underneath the Nautilus, because the waterfall continues even though we're not moving through the water anymore.
Yep, it keeps sending out those pings regardless of whether we're going quickly, slowly, or at a complete stop. We have another question that came in about Nautilus and having tested a grabbing hand by JPL. And Nautilus...
I forgot about that one.
Yes, that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
The JPL rock gripper.
Yeah, they're asking when will that be ready for testing again, and I don't think we know the answer to that, do we?
Were they going to send that to space?
Yeah, I think that was a
I think that's the ultimate
Not
plan.
immediately.
Yeah.
They were really just
Testing it under
proof
pressures?
of concept.
yeah. When is it going to come back out? I'm not sure.
I don't know if it's coming out with us. I'm sure they're continuing to test and develop.
Right.
It was hydraulic?
No.
It was not.
It actually, so you held it with the craft jaw, and
It was a wrist spin
yeah, you
that
spun
activated.
the wrist,
Oh, cool. And it like closed on
and
me.
it closed with rope tension.
Wow.
It's 16 fingers, and it just, and they could close it variable, like, you know, so you could pick up something irregular.
That's
And
cool.
at the end of it was just needles. It was terrifying.
Yeah, I saw pictures
Needles just sticking out, and it was like this face hugger.
And once one gripper finger had hit its maximum tension, you could still continue to tension the others.
of it. You not individually though, it just kind of automatically
Yeah, yeah.
compensated. That's
And
awesome.
then when you got to your max tension, a little flag would pop out
Per
to
finger?
let you know to stop doing it.
Oh, for the whole thing?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So the ship is over at 30.
Holding position, and we are swinging towards it.
The ship is over 30 right now, and we're waiting for Argus to catch up.
Yeah, that's one of our 30 targets. There's another one that was dropped from software, and
The moment of truth is coming.
we're just gonna scan the area for anything
Ooh.
in the mezzo and approach it stepwise. That's the plan.
Yeah, in theory you will not see it in the side scan sonar because the side
No.
scan does not scan in front of it.
We'll probably switch up our streams for this op. Probably go
Channels.
Argus, Mezzo,
Channel 3,
side scan.
Argus, Mezzo, side scan.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So viewers at home, what do you think it will be? Do you think we'll find some wreckage or debris of the Samoan Clipper? Or rocks?
Or wreckage and rocks.
Or wreckage and rocks? Wrecker rocks. Come on, Argus.